Hey there. My name's Mythematic, and you're watching Roleplay Mastery. Let's get started. Last episode, we spoke of roleplay and what that means to me, Mythematic, and also what my background in roleplay is. I promised that we would get in touch with how to create characters and how to create a comfortable character for you and how to make a story evolve out of just the idea of the beginnings of your character. So first thing is first, what is a character? A character is not a tune that you walk around that holds all the stats of your character. That is mainly for other games that call themselves role-playing games, but not a role as in a character. More of like a role as in we need a DPS or we need a tank. Like that's a specific party role is needed rather than a role of the character. That role, it's hard to keep using the term role, but that role has been used and bounced around a lot and evolved into a separate genre with the same name. It's kind of annoying really to explain both and to discuss both, but let's just move on to role as in the character. So how do we create that character that we love, we want to move the story with, that we will build an epic crescendo of story and plot? Well, the first thing that you need to do is accept the fact that your great idea will not stem from your brain immediately. You need inspiration. It took me a long time to realize this. I remember racking my brain back in college and probably years after college because I wanted to create a really cool Dungeons & Dragons campaign or a really cool character, and I couldn't think of anything. Everything I thought of, I was like, oh man, that's already been done before. I want to be original. I want to be original. I want to be original. But until I realized and came to the conclusion through what I've heard from people around me and through inspiration that creativity and originality is an illusion. Being original with your one's creative story is just an illusion, because everything in the universe that is creative has been inspired from something else. It has been a collaboration with those... Sorry, I think my cat's about to jump on me. It's a collaboration with those who have already created something and those who want to create something else. The new, I guess, generation of creativity looks back on the history of originality and starts taking things from there. If this doesn't make sense, let's look at the Star Wars franchise. Star Wars, the original Star Wars, may seem to be a marvel of creativity, but really, if you look at it and you look at what has inspired George Lucas and the entire Star Wars films and franchise, take a look at Google Star Wars inspiration, and you'll see that he has taken influences from old samurai myths, taken lore and structure of how to film and the story from a lot of Flash Gordon. He's a huge Flash Gordon fan. If you look back at those old Flash Gordon films, you will see a lot of similarities between what he has done and what was already been done. So the point there is you just have to accept that you are not going to create something immediately. Something will not just stem from your brain that will be original. It may happen, but it's very rare, and you just have to accept that it won't happen, and when it does, it'll be a phenomenon. My best example for me personally is my most recent character. I'm playing Brynjar Cloudcleaver. He is a dragon lord who sits on top of a mountain, and he trains the dragons in the eyes of a great dragon god named Draco. His inspirations came from Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, as well as the Greybeards from Skyrim. Those guys who sit on top of the mountain, the throat of the world, and they talk about the dragons and how they're the best, blah blah. So I kind of have like the barbaric influences and background of Khal Drogo and his people, but with the same respect and candor of the Greybeards. which makes him a cool, interesting story. And that will lead me into actually our next point. So let's go ahead and start creating a character. Now, a backstory is always needed, but we're not going to use the backstory yet. We need to have inspiration. What character do we want to play? Well, let's say, like I said, Brynjar, the character I'm playing now, has several inspirations from a lot of different things, as well as a bit of backstory that helped him flesh out who he was and who he is. The basics of creating a new character, creating a character that we want to play through, not a character that we want to dump stats onto and then, I guess, melt faces and pwn people with, but a real character, not an avatar, not a toon, but a character. What we need here is inspiration. So let's look around the world and try to find things that inspire us. What could be an interesting character that you want to play? I want to play that character. That character is badass. Pick that character, and you don't stop there. Pick 2 or 3 more of your favorite characters that you really want to play, but make sure they go well. You can't have 2 of the same sort of character. You don't want to have a Han Solo and a Boba Fett, because they're both kind of on the edge of law. They both get paid to do illegal stuff. So it's kind of like, that's very similar. I don't know, they ride reality and they ride situations very similar to each other. But let's just move on. Anyway, so pick 2 your favorite characters and then play them at the same time together. And that may be very hard to do. Now, how to do that is to start make that character your own. And by doing that is you need to start making a backstory to give this character the reason why this character is now this character. The backstory is going to involve lore that you may already know of, that this character has already seen. Now, nobody wants to watch or listen to a story that has already been said. Whether you are trying to play Dritz Duorden and his exile of the Underdark by his dark elf, by the Drow society, and his cat, Gwenna something. Nobody wants to see a story that has already been told. Nobody wants to hear lore that has already been said. So the best way to do it is just a simple reskin. And what that means is you just take lore, you take something that you already have, and change the face of it. Change the skin, change the appearance, change the wording, change names, change place names, change character names, change god names. Just reskin the entire lore and backstory. And that is a great jumping off point for new characters. You can go ahead and make a backstory that is almost identical to something else, but if you renamed everything, chosen new words, and really renaming things is where it comes down to giving it originality. And that's where your originality through your inspiration shines through. And you see through just doing these simple steps of reskinning something that you've been inspired by will actually fuel your character's personality throughout the story. Because you need to have a strong backstory, one full of flaws and strengths. It's very easy to make strengths inside of a backstory. My character was once the best jouster in all the land, but it was one day when his horse was taken from him during a joust where the horse had died. That is when he decided to take the shield and sword and train and fight the evil orcs off of horseback. And like, that's pretty cool because you have a character that has trained his whole life as cavalry, but is now has to step off of what is new to him on solid ground with a shield and sword and fight. There's a flaw there, but he's a champion that people know of. He's a champion that people have heard and has the title of Champion of the Realm, but in fact, now he has to fight off of his horse, off of his best friend. So that right there someone could use, but it's like, you need to have flaw. And I'm glad we somehow got to this point, but flaws are very important. We have a couple applications on my server, and I'm not here to plug, but in my server that people don't realize what a flaw is and why they have to put it down. My character doesn't have any flaws. well, your character's not a character at that point. Your character is just power gaming. And that's the term, as well as obviously metagaming, that we will all talk about in our next episode. We're going to talk about terms and how to apply them and all that such next episode. But characters who don't have any flaws are on the road to power gaming and creating a not fun game for others, because good story won't develop through the eyes of the character. It'll just be, no, my character's this, it's this, it's this. No. Your character needs to have flaws. And the best way to do this is to show some of it, hint at them, or just call them in the backstory. Because the backstory is the pool of information and resource that you are going to be pulling from to keep your character a character throughout the game, throughout the scene, throughout the story. After we create the backstory and the flaws as well, there is something that we are going to need to use to keep tugging us through the story. What is going to pull our character through the story? And that's goals. Goals are a very touchy subject, a very hard subject to explain to people. A goal is something that we will be using to pull our character through the story. And they are things that the character would like to see achieved. Now, it may not happen, and that's something that the player needs to know. These goals may not happen. Don't expect that they will, because if you do, you're just going to get bummed when they don't happen. Out of game, you're not going to have fun because you are striving for this to happen, and it doesn't. I'm playing in a game right now where the plot has been expected it to go one way, and it hasn't. It's not going to go that way. We had a picture in our minds where we would like it to go, but through interactions and, of course, the collaboration of roleplay with other people, and this is then the social collaboration of the environment around us, things have changed to evolve the story in several different directions, which is amazing. It's not the way we expected it to go. We're not kicking ourselves for it. We're accepting it because it's a great story that is evolving from what could have been. That is how you can get great story. You have to accept all of the offers that come to you. You have goals for your character for them to strive towards. Be open to change. Be open to anything that comes your way that could screw your character over. Give it more flaws. Show off some of those flaws in your roleplay. The best characters worth watching are the ones that are weak, but show strength. They have the facade of a strong character, but in fact, to the viewer and the audience, to the other players, and even to the player playing, is revealing those weaknesses. Today we spoke of how creativity needs structure and how originality is an illusion, and we have to accept that. The best way to overcome these two things, or to use creativity's structure, and how to overcome that originality is just an illusion, is to start thinking about characters. Which characters we would like to play, which stories inspire us to be something else. What can we use in the world around us through media, through someone we've met on the train, to someone that we bought food from at the grocery store. Just what in the world around us inspires us. Use the several inspirations you find around you, blend that down into the pulp of your character. And from there, start creating the backstory of what your character is. But in the backstory, reskin the lore of old stories. Make it yours. Make the character your own. And from there, create goals for your character. My character would like to see this happen. But also, maybe note what would happen if my character doesn't meet these goals. And also, accept the fact that these goals may not be reached, and accept the fact that whatever happens if these goals aren't reached may not be reached. It's not concrete, because it'll always morph. That character is set already on the path of change. You've created everything up to the point of that interaction in backstory and in history, in some lore. You may not have 100% of your character until you start playing it. A lot of the fun of role-playing is making the game, making the character up as you go. So plant those seeds of goals, flaws, backstory, and then watch it grow when you start playing. We said a lot of stuff here today. A lot of stuff that may be a bit confusing. And you have to forgive me, because I promised myself that I would get a video up this week, and unfortunately this is the only time I could actually film it. So hopefully you understand what I mean. If you have any questions, I'm always available on twitch.tv/Mythematic. I am also, there's links as well below where you can find me. And like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time as we delve into the terminology and the terms of roleplay and what they mean to me. So thank you guys for hanging out again. As always, it's been a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys in-game. I'll see you at twitch.tv/Mythematic, where I live stream 3 days a week. Love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you again next time. Have a good one.